Hey y'all. With Season 2 almost here, I thought I'd post a little update on where I'm at with my casting Mistweaver. I'll try and keep it brief, but what I wanted to cover is the talent choices I'm starting out with, a quick overview of my general playstyle, and maybe most importantly, how our tier set might shift these priorities in the coming weeks. This is the raid build I've settled on, and it's the build I'm mostly going to be talking about. Essence Font is a major portion of my overall healing, and especially with the 15% buff that it's getting, I don't expect that to change. I always try and cast it with some combination of buffs to get the most out of each use, such as the crit proc from Secret Infusion, one of Xiaohao's lessons, and Enveloping Breath when I can spread it with Yulan. That being said, I continue to put points into Font of Life and Upwelling for a stronger, longer Essence Font. I also pick Gift of the Celestials, Secret Infusion, and Invoker's Delight for a frequently available, high-volume healing cooldown. I try and make sure Thunder Focus Tea is off cooldown every time I hit Yulan. That way, as I start spamming Enveloping Mist, the first cast is instant and gets me a plus 15% crit buff for 10 seconds, which lasts for just about all of Yulan's duration. Since Enveloping Mist is half cost during Yulan, Invoker's Delight is just a mini bloodlust that helps me get more casts off at a reduced cost. Then you've got Mending Proliferation, which is another healing amplifier that branches off pretty reliably from Enveloping Mist. This is even stronger with Mist Wrap Talented, and since I like to use Enveloping Mist as a filler, perhaps more than I need to, it gets a lot of mileage. There is something new I'm trying, and that's a couple of Live Cocoon talents. Since I run Serpent Statue, I can stack up Calming Coalescence, which means a cocoon that's up to 150% stronger. That's a massive absorb, almost 800k with my current gear, either for a tank or for the target of some major damage ability. However, I don't talent into Unison, and I don't often use Soothing Mist for more than a couple ticks, so I'll have to rely mostly on my statue to get most of the stacks of Calming Coalescence. Luckily, each cast of Soothing Mist causes the statue to start channeling for the full 8 seconds, which means I get up to 9 stacks even if I cancel my own immediately. What that means is I'll probably be casting 1 tick of Soothing Mist once every 8 seconds, more or less, basically whenever I can, without disrupting the flow of my healing rotation. Live Cocoon with Chrysalis is on a 75-second cooldown, so I think 50 stacks is perfectly achievable in that time, even with low haste and imperfect resets. It doesn't have to be the full 50 to be effective anyways, and in some cases, that might be overkill. As far as raiding goes, there's one main alteration I like to make to my raid build depending on a fight's damage patterns and how often everyone's stacked up for healing. If there's a fight with constant rot damage on many stacked players at once, like Kurog, I'll take Refreshing Jade Wind. That's instead of Mist Wrap, and it typically does up to 8% of my healing on fights where it shines. The thing about Jade Wind is it's got a base 45-second cooldown and a duration which is generally longer than most damage events. So timing is key, but there's also the fact that the cooldown and duration are reduced by haste. This means hitting it just before Yulan becomes a whole lot more beneficial, since the haste from an Invoker's Delight helps shave off a few seconds from the cooldown. During downtime, I might spend Thunder Focus Tea on Renewing Mist, so that Secret Infusion gives me a haste buff, or I might look at the haste proc from Xiaohao's lessons a little bit more favorably. Planning Jade Wind around haste buffs and procs can lead to it having higher and more effective uptime. As far as Mythic Plus, it's a lot of the same build with certain things like Chi Burst, Close to Heart, and Generous Pour gone in favor of Fast Feet and Resonant Fists for DPS, plus the all-around defensiveness of Bounce Back. I take Veil of Pride and Legacy of Wisdom since Shaloon's Gift is my strongest, fastest acting group heal in dungeons, especially when used with any healing amplifiers. I don't really follow a set healing rotation in Mythic Plus since the whole experience is just so inconsistent from one run to the next, but I like to rely heavily on being able to alternate Shaloon's Gift and Yulan for some big damage events, and that's worked well enough so far. To do DPS, I'll often just spam Spinning Crane Kick during downtime on medium to large trash packs, and then hit Rising Sun Kick whenever I can. On pure single target downtime, I'll do something resembling the basic fist weaving rotation, or if I'm low mana, I'll stick to triple palm blackout kicks so I don't have to drink as often, thanks to the mana regen from Spirit of the Crane. Especially with the Onyx Amulet kitted out for DPS, I think I'll do plenty of damage when I need to, but avoidable damage is usually pretty high for the first month or so I'm making healing a priority. I I didn't mention this earlier, but Spirit of the Crane is massively important for mana regen, at least in my experience. And it has the added benefit of making Potion of Frozen Focus a lot less appealing than basic mana pots, which is great because I hated having to plan out when to use those optimally. Between the mana proc from our 2-piece and then the healer trinket from Rashok, I could see mana being far less of an issue going forward. As far as stat priority, I'm still gearing crit, then verse, then haste for raids, and crit with a balance of haste and verse for Mythic Plus. I find haste mostly useful in dungeons to help my reaction time, but even in raids, it's good for overall ease of play, so it doesn't hurt to have a little bit on your gear. Then there's the matter of the new tier set. Looking at the 2- and 4-piece bonuses, Dancing Mists could gain a bit of value, but now that the mana proc has an internal cooldown, I could see myself playing with or without that talent, so consider me undecided on that. It does mean 2 things though. One is that we'll want to track the 4-piece proc so our instant Vivify procs can get a boost whenever the 2 effects happen to overlap. Second is that choosing the right primary target for Vivify is even more important now, since 10.1 made Vivify's primary healing stronger and its cleave slightly weaker. But with Mending Proliferation now showing up on our raid frames, and cooldowns like Yu'lon blanketing the raid in Enveloping Breath, picking a target with an amplifier shouldn't be too difficult. 2 more details worth noting. First, at least on the PTR, Mana Tea and Fortifying Brew both triggered the 4-piece proc. If this goes live, there might be special situations where we'll want to use those as throughput cooldowns, and the talent Expeditious Fortification might gain a bit of additional value. Second, having a Vivify-centric set bonus means that the throughput potential of Escape from Reality just went up, but only if we can fit it into our rotation without too much disruption. I haven't really gotten the hang of this, so I'll just leave it at that. If you can pull it off, that's great. All of this is to say that even though I don't have it all figured out, I do know what's worked for me so far, and I'm optimistic about how it'll perform in Season 2. Even though your mileage may vary with this build and playstyle, I hope I continue to be a helpful resource in this small world of casting Mistweavers. Thanks so much for watching, and good luck in Season 2.